Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a truth that make you uncomfortable. Discipline is not a gift. It's if your why doesn't make you cry, your discipline won't survive. That's the truth most people don't want to face. They think self-discipline is about willpower. They think it's about grinding harder, waking up earlier, or saying no to cookies. But real discipline, the kind that lasts, the kind that turns average into excellence, that kind of discipline is fueled by vision. Not just any vision, a vision so clear, so emotionally compelling that it burns inside you. Because when the fire on the inside is hotter than the pressure on outside, nothing can stop you. See, most people fail at discipline not because they're weak, but because they have no compelling reason to stay strong. They start a diet with vague goals. I want to lose some weight. They start a business saying, I want to make more money. That kind of language, that kind of thinking, it doesn't stir the soul. It doesn't anchor them when the storms come, because the moment things get hard, and they always do, people fall back on what feels easy. They fall back on comfort. But when your reason is rooted in emotion, when your why hits deep in your chest, you fall back, you fight forward. Let me give you the secret that most people overlook. Logic doesn't drive discipline. Emotion does. It's not enough to say, I want a better life. That's too vague, too sanitized, too clean. You need to feel the weight of staying where you are. You need to taste the pain of regret before you ever feel the reward of success. Ask yourself, what will it cost me to keep living like this? What price of my excuses? What will my life look like 5 years from now if I stay undisciplined? Most people don't have a discipline problem. They have a vision problem. You're trying to climb the mountain of success without seeing the summit. That's why you lose motivation halfway. That's why you procrastinate. That's why you quit. But if you close your eyes and clearly see what's waiting on the other side, freedom, impact, then you'll stop looking for motivation and start moving with conviction. Discipline doesn't become something you do. It becomes who you are. Think about a parent working 3 jobs to feed their kids. Think about an athlete grinding every day for a shot at the championship. Think about someone escaping poverty, breaking cycles, rewriting history. They see the strength of it. You think they're doing that because they're more disciplined than you. No, they're doing it because their why is real. It's emotional, visceral. It's bigger than just them. And they see that that's what gives them the strength to keep going when everything in them says quit. Now ask yourself your reason. Why are you waking up early? Why are you reading books? Why are you going to the gym? If your answer is something like, because I should, or because it's the right thing to do, you've already lost. But if your answer is, because if you refuse to die with potential still inside me, then you've got something. If your answer is, because I want to give my children a life I never had, now we're talking. If your answer is, because I was created for more, and I'm tired of living less, now you've got the fuel. Here's what you dog. Stop chasing shallow motivation and go deeper. Sit down with yourself for 5 minutes. I mean, really sit. Get honest. Ask yourself, what do I really want? What am I tired of settling for? What is the pain that I'm running from? They see the strength because on the other side of that pain is the power to change. The reason most people stay stuck is because they never look in the mirror long enough to face what's really holding them back. The moment you get clear on your why, everything else starts falling into place. Waking up early becomes easier. Saying no to distractions becomes natural. You don't need someone to constantly push you. You're pulled by a vision that's so real you can feel it in your bones. And when you move like that, when you move with emotional conviction instead of mental confusion, discipline becomes less about what you sacrifice and more about what you're running toward. Your why is the blueprint for your discipline. If you haven't found it, you haven't started building yet. Most people treat goals like options. They write them down once a year, maybe pin them to a vision board and hope that somehow those goals will pull them through their distractions, their habits, and their fears. But hope is not a strategy. And goals are not strong enough to carry you when your emotions start whispering lies. That's why people start strong and fade fast. That's why the gym is full in January and empty by March. Because a goal says, I want to, but a standard says, this is who I am. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards. And until you change your standards, your goals are just motivational fluff. They might get you excited for a few days, maybe a few weeks, but when life punches you in the face, only your standards can take the hit and keep moving. That's because standards are identity-based. They're not about what you're trying to do. They're about who you've decided to be. A goal says, I want to be disciplined. A standard says, I don't miss. A goal says, I want to eat healthy. A standard says, I don't put junk in my body. If you want real change, you've got to make decisions that reflect the person you are becoming, not the person you've been. And that starts with raising your standards. Because when your standards shift, everything else follows. Your routines change, your habits evolve, your language upgrades. Most importantly, your mindset transforms. You begin to expect more from yourself, not in a prideful way, but in a purposeful way. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop justifying your laziness. You stop being okay with average. You see, people with high standards don't need to be told what to do every day. They don't need accountability partners dragging them forward. Their vision and identity push them from the inside. That's why some people seem so driven. It's not because they're superhuman. It's because they've raised what they accept. They've said, I will not tolerate this behavior anymore. And once you draw that line in the sand, the game changes. When you go from I hope I can to I always do, you stop battling with motivation and start living with momentum. Standards don't ask for permission. They declare expectation. They aren't loud or flashy, but they are consistent. You won't see them plastered on social media. You'll see them in quiet decisions. You'll see them when someone gets up at 5 a.m. without applause, when someone puts in work with no immediate reward, when someone stays late after everyone else has clocked out. That's the invisible discipline of high standards. It's not about being seen. It's about being solid. Let's be real. The reason most people never hit their goals is because they're okay with breaking promises to themselves. They've made a habit of inconsistency. And every time they skip a workout, binge on distraction, or procrastinate again, they reinforce the belief that it's acceptable to quit on themselves. But when your standard is non-negotiable, the decision is already made. You don't wrestle with yourself about whether to show up. You show up because it's who you are. The best in any field, business, sports, leadership, don't wake up every day wondering if they feel like doing the work. Their standard is already set. It's not about being in the mood. It's about honoring who they are. And until you stop being emotionally led and start being identity led, you'll always be at the mercy of your feelings. Feelings change. Standards stay. The shift happens when you stop asking, can I do this? And start affirming, this is just what I do. You don't ask if you feel like making that call, going to the gym, studying that course, staying focused. You just do it because it's beneath your standard to operate in distraction. It's beneath your standard to act lazy. It's beneath your standard to keep playing small. When you raise your standard, you raise the temperature of your life. And when your internal thermostat gets dialed into excellence, you won't even be comfortable in mediocrity anymore. Now, I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about consistency. Perfection is a myth. But standards are the daily rhythm that keeps you aligned with the person you're becoming. When you mess up, you don't collapse. You course correct. When you slip, they see the strength of you down. You stand up faster because your standard won't let you stay there. High standards don't make life easier. They make you stronger. They shape your character, and over time, your character shapes your destiny. Your habits are either your silent workers or your silent killers. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are casting votes for the person you are becoming by the habits you choose to repeat. Discipline doesn't begin with a massive act of willpower. It begins with the small, quiet decisions you make when nobody is watching. The difference between those who rise and those who fall isn't talent. It's not luck. It's the rituals they follow, the behaviors they normalize, and the systems they build in their lives. Because long before success becomes public, discipline is private. We are creatures of repetition. What you do repeatedly creates the rhythm of your life. Some people wake up every day and fall into patterns of distraction, delay, consumption, and excuse. They don't even realize it. They think they're just tired or unmotivated. They see the strength of but it's not that, it's that their habits have trained them to stay stuck. Because your brain doesn't do what's best. It does what's familiar. And if laziness is your routine, don't be surprised when regret is your result. You can't outrun your habits. You might get excited for a few days. You might even have a burst of inspiration that gets you moving. But inspiration wears off, emotion fades. And when it does, your habits are what catch you. Either they catch you and carry you forward, or they catch you and pull you back. Habits are systems, and systems always win. Even when you don't feel like it, if your system is solid, you'll still show up. You'll still deliver. You'll still move. That's the power of building habits that serve your future instead of sabotaging it. The challenge is most people try to fix their results without fixing their routines. They're frustrated by the fruit, but they keep watering the same root. You can't complain about the harvest if you're not willing to change the seed. You want focus, but you keep waking up scrolling. You want energy, but you keep staying up late with empty content. You want momentum, but your day is run by reaction instead of intention. It's not your goals that are broken. It's your habits that are misaligned. The secret to building strong discipline is learning how to build strong systems. It's not about relying on motivation. It's about removing the need for motivation by making right behavior automatic. You brush your teeth every day, not because you're motivated, but because it's wired in. That same autopilot can be created for success if you are intentional. You don't need to make massive changes overnight. You need to make small changes every day. Discipline isn't about doing big things once. It's about doing small things consistently until they become part of who you are. Start by auditing your day. Where is your time actually going? Where are your decisions actually leading? If you're constantly running late, if you're constantly reacting to the urgent instead of investing in the important, then your habits are out of alignment. And what's worse, every time you enforce that behavior, you reinforce the belief that you are that kind of person. But you're not. You're just operating inside a system that wasn't designed with your greatness in mind. Greatness is built through structure, not spurts. The highest performers in the world don't wait for inspiration. They have protocols. They have non-negotiables. They don't ask themselves every day whether they're going to practice, prepare, study, execute. They do it because it's part of the system. And that system is built on habits. The right habits create internal momentum, and momentum is the advantage that makes everything else easier. People often ask how to stay consistent. The answer is make it easier to win, remove friction, set your environment to support your habits, put your phone in another room, lay your clothes out the night before, prep your meals in advance, stack your habits, tie new ones to old ones. If you want to build a journaling habit, do it right after your morning coffee. Tie the habit to a trigger you already follow. That's how you program yourself to stay consistent without relying on feelings. Don't underestimate the power of doing small things right. Small hinges swing big doors. You don't see the benefit immediately, but over time, your habits compound. They either compound for you or against you. And by the time the results show up, it's too late to go back and fix the system. That's why the time to adjust your habits is now, not later, because later is how average is built. Now is how discipline is built, and discipline, when guided by systems, becomes effortless over time. They see the strength of it. You don't have to fight to be focused. You don't have to wrestle with willpower. You simply show up as the person you've already decided to be, and that person is created by the pattern of your daily actions. Habits don't ask for permission. They just do what they've been trained to do. Discipline without delay is only an idea. It's a wish, a dream, a thought you admire but never apply. The truth is, delayed gratification is the foundation of every major success story. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It doesn't get applause. But it works, because every time you delay an impulse for a deeper purpose, you deposit into your future. Every time you resist what's easy in order to pursue what's essential, you are building a life of substance instead of a life of shortcuts. And it's not because you're suppressing pleasure. It's because you've learned the difference between what feels good now and what feels right later. The challenge is, we live in a world that rewards instant gratification. One-click orders, fast food, viral videos, instant likes. We've been trained to want results without process, praise without effort, success without struggle. And the moment something requires patience or pain, people give up. They say it's too hard. They say it's not working. But the ones who win are the ones who wait, not in passivity, but in purpose. They know what they're building. They know what they're sacrificing for. And because of that, they can delay what they want now for what they want most. Self-discipline is the art of holding off on small pleasures to gain greater rewards. It's the ability to choose long-term alignment over short-term amusement. It's knowing you could indulge, but choosing to invest instead. You could spend, but you save. You could quit, but you continue. You could scroll, but you study. Every time you make that choice, you aren't just changing your habits. You're transforming your identity. You're becoming someone who can be trusted with greatness, because you've shown you can steward discomfort without backing down. You don't get a strong body overnight. You don't build a thriving business in a weekend. You don't create meaningful relationships in an instant. Anything valuable takes time, and anything that takes time requires discipline. Delayed gratification is how you earn what others only dream about. It's how you build credibility with yourself, because every time you delay gratification, you prove that your future matters more than your feelings. And that proof compounds. It builds confidence. It builds momentum. It builds the foundation of unshakable self-belief. You have to stop asking if the process feels good and start asking if it builds good. Because feeling good is temporary. Building good is transformative. There's a difference between pleasure and purpose. Pleasured fast, purpose sticks. Pleasure satisfies the moment. Purpose sustains your mission. But the door to purpose is guarded by sacrifice. And if you're not willing to delay the easy things, you'll never unlock the meaningful things. That's why most people stay stuck, not because they don't have dreams, but because they keep trading their future for their feelings. Every time you say no to something shallow, you say yes to something sacred. When you turn down the shortcut, you say yes to character. When you delay the dopamine hit, you say yes to discipline. And when you do it again and again, it becomes normal. You stop seeing sacrifice as suffering. You start seeing it as strength. You begin to value what you are becoming more than what you are consuming. And that shift is where transformation begins. Not in one big decision, but in 1,000 small ones. One skipped temptation, one rejected distraction, one focused hour at a time. People who master delayed gratification are not wired differently. They are not born with better habits. They are simply clear about what they want and ruthless about protecting it. They know that what they do now echoes later. They understand that every easy option has a cost, and that cost is often invisible until it's too late. So they choose to wait, not because waiting is easy, waiting is worth it. They learn to enjoy the process, even when it's uncomfortable, because they trust where the process is leading. Most of the world is running from discomfort. That's why most of the world is running in circles. Discipline isn't about never feeling tempted. It's about recognizing that the temptation is trying to rob you of something greater. They see the strength of it. It's about choosing what you want most over what you want now. And that choice over time rewires your brain. It recalibrates your instincts. It reshapes your values. You no longer need external motivation because you've built internal conviction. And that conviction becomes your compass. It becomes your shield. It becomes the quiet power behind your every move. They see delayed gratification in just a mindset. It's a strategy. It's a muscle you train through repetition. It's a commitment you make to yourself every time you walk away from ease and toward excellence. And while the rewards don't show up immediately, they always show up eventually, because the law of discipline is always at work, silently multiplying every choice, every sacrifice, every delay, until what once seemed far away becomes the life you actually live. Most see this people live reactive lives, bouncing from one distraction to the next, waiting for the right mood, the perfect timing, or a burst of inspiration before they act. But discipline doesn't wait. Discipline decides. The key to becoming unstoppable in any area of life is developing the ability to take consistent, intentional action regardless of how you feel. Because feelings are liars. They fluctuate. They shift with the weather, with your sleep, with someone else's opinion. But action grounded in conviction doesn't care how you feel. It only cares about results. It moves forward even when the emotion is missing. There's a difference between motivation and movement. Motivation is a feeling. Movement is a choice. Too many people are addicted to the idea of feeling ready. They think discipline means pushing hard when you're in the zone, when the energy is high, when the vision is clear. But discipline shows up when the zone disappears, when the energy is gone, and when the vision gets cloudy. Because true discipline isn't about hype. It's about habits. It's about showing up on the days when nothing inside of you wants to. And that's where most people miss it. They wait for perfect conditions, and by the time those conditions arrive, the opportunity is gone. You will never dominate anything in life if your emotions run your execution. You'll be stuck in a loop of inconsistency, starting and stopping, wishing and waiting. But once you learn to detach your actions from your feelings, you become dangerous. You stop being a slave to your circumstances. You stop checking the temperature of your mood before deciding whether to move. You train yourself to act because it's required, not because it's convenient. And that internal shift is where your power lies. The most powerful people aren't those who always feel like doing the work. They're the ones who do it anyway. When everyone else needs a reason, they lean on responsibility. When everyone else looks for motivation, they lean on commitment. And that commitment isn't flashy. It's not loud. It's not driven by social media quotes or YouTube hype videos. It's built in the dark. It's formed in quiet repetition. It's shaped in the moments when nobody is watching and nobody is clapping, and it's solidified every time you move without permission from your feelings. Discipline is not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It's about recognizing when your feelings trying to lead you into comfort, distraction, or compromise, and having the strength to choose conviction over convenience. Your future doesn't need you to feel good every day. Your future needs you to do it every day. And doing good means executing your priorities even when your emotions rebel. It means having a non-negotiable mindset. It means deciding this is what I do and letting your identity lead your behavior. When you separate your actions from your emotions, you reclaim your power. You stop outsourcing your discipline to your mood. You stop waiting for the day when it feels easy and instead build the muscle to act in the hard. Because life doesn't care about your feelings, responds to your decisions. It pays dividends to those who keep going when it's tough, who keep building when it's boring, who keep planting seeds even when the harvest is nowhere in sight. That's how results are earned. That's how character is formed. The strongest version of you is buried under layers of hesitation, procrastination, and emotional dependence. You don't need to feel brave to take bold steps. You don't need to feel motivated to act with purpose. You don't need to feel disciplined to do what disciplined people do. You just need to move. And the more you move without waiting to feel like it, the more those actions begin to rewrite who you are. You stop saying, I don't feel like it. And you start saying, this is just what I do. That's the language of high performers. That's the mindset of masters. Taking action when you don't feel like it is the most honest form of discipline. It means you are no longer operating from mood, the strength from mission. You aren't waiting to be rescued by a better day. You're building a better through repetition. Every time you train your body and mind to obey your commitments over your emotions, you raise your standard. They see the strength of you make consistency your new normal. And with consistency comes confidence. Because now you don't need to believe that you can. You've proven it. Not with hype, not with words, but with movement. They see the strength of this level of discipline makes you immune to trap of temporary emotion. You don't rise and fall with every feeling. You operate from a deeper place. And because of that, you gain access to opportunities that emotional people never see. You see the finish what others quit. You endure what others avoid. You execute when others hesitate, not because you're better, but because you've built the ability to act in spite of emotion. And once you master that ability, there is nothing outside of your reach.